And the same, all these things, you could do all these things. You just decide you want to, you just go out there and be open-minded. It's possible, you can do it. You can do it with or without rituals. You could have the rituals if you need the convincers. When you need the convincers, when you need the rituals, when you need someone to do it for you, you put the power outside of you. I want you to have the power inside you. You know? And you can. And you could each become your own shaman, become your own magic person. Tomorrow you're going to link up to that greater force that's outside of you, or everything, universal consciousness, what you want to say, however you want to call that. And then you can channel all kinds of things through you, and you can tap into forces that are greater than you. And one person can move mountains, one person can do amazing things. People do. You can each think of amazing people that have achieved, you know, vast amounts more, just one person. You think of those people? Now think of those people and think of you. I know if I think of that, I'm thinking, ooh, but I don't want to be that person because I don't want to do that much or be that big or go through, you know, those hardships or be that visible or, you know, whatever else. But you can. You can do anything. In some cultures, and I've studied a whole lot of the different shamanic countries, I've been to different countries and studied with different shamans and learned. In some cases it's a blessing, in some cases it's a curse. It's a bit of both. Because you've got that responsibility and you're there on call and you have to do these certain things, and there are a number of unpleasant things that often come up in the course of your training. You know, you've heard about the near-death experiences you might need to have, and going through such, you know, vision quests and tortures and things to stiffen up your spirit and, you know, get you in a position to face all the dangers of the other worlds and the unseen things and all that that's going on. Some people would prefer not to be shaman. They try and hide away, but they get winkled out. No, no, it looks like you've got the abilities, and they have to go through that training, and it's not always good. But in other cases, yeah, maybe it is in some way a privileged thing, and people bring you food and drink and look after you and shower you with all kinds of good stuff because you're the one that's responsible for taking care of them. But it's a bit of both, you know, it's a two-edged thing. And that's why I say, you know, when I said earlier about the people that make a big impact, those special people, I was thinking people like Gandhi and Mother Teresa I had in my head. And I'm thinking, not always a pleasant position to be in. You know, I would like to have, personally, I would like to have a big impact on the world. I'd love to do something really positive. But I'd really rather not be known, and I'd really rather not have to go through suffering, and I'd really not have to be the person that, you know, the responsibility sits on my shoulders. And I'd really rather not have people, you know, when you draw attention to yourself, some will hate you, some will disagree with you, some will attack you, some will be jealous of you, some will love you and adore you and chase you around the place and stalk you, and, you know, I don't know, maybe it would just be better to just be a nice, quiet individual. If you're in the Christian tradition, you're parish priest, if you like. There's a ritual going on when you go into the Mass, and, you know, there's the incense and there's candles and there's whatever. And there's a set, you know, set of prayers and hymns and things that you go through. That's a ritual to get everybody there together. And the person of the priest or vicar is the person responsible for the magic or the connection to God, the Spirit. Maybe the idea of the adventurer or the healer, as we said. Apothecary. Testing her spelling there. I mean, there's pretty big weight hanging on these shaman here when you think about it. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, they could equally be the scapegoat if something goes horribly wrong, because the community in those traditional times was putting all that stuff on them. Now, in different traditions, the shaman might have been expected to do all of that, but equally in different traditions, they do one or other or some of those things. In the Hawaiian Huna tradition, is the one that fits with me best. I feel really at home with that. And if I had past lives, that's probably what I was busy doing, at least some of the time. That all makes loads and loads of sense, and I think it's well worth looking into, Huna. But they would say their kahuna, which is their word for the shaman or, you know, whatever that is, simply meant the person of knowledge. And you might be a kahuna of healing and use herbs and things like that, or work with that in that way. But you could equally be a kahuna of shipbuilding or building houses and things like that. You'd be the person of knowledge, and you'd have an area of expertise that you would be just that bit better and wonderful at. But everybody, you know, maybe had their own thing. Somebody was really good. It was just that in the traditional societies, in some of those traditional societies, they just all had much more than the ordinary senses. They were all much more in tune. So there'd be somebody who'd be responsible for the good hunt. And maybe that's their work. Maybe it was the men, it's not always that way, but maybe it was the men traditionally more doing the hunting, and they would tune in and they'd do that, and it'd be something beyond where they'd know, as I said, where the herd was. They'd know how to sense out and where to travel for 2 or 3 days to be there at the same time as the herd was there that they wanted to hunt. There'd be someone else responsible that'd be particularly good about fishing and knowing where to go and where to fish and what to do and how to call the fish to you, or even the whales out of the sea. I think of some of the different traditions. And then maybe I'm thinking about like the Aboriginal women being able to find water in the desert, or foods that they could drink or eat, and being particularly good at knowing in a featureless desert where those things are, where you would dig for them. But it's something where the senses almost seem to be beyond. But we don't need to limit ourselves, because you could do any or all or some. And if you all become shamans, decide, or whatever you want to call it, magical people, you may pick one area and become really, really good at that one area and discover that that's your thing. And you become magnificent at that thing. Or you may pick a number of those areas. And maybe the number of areas that you pick will have a certain theme. I learnt the Silver Method, and I did that for myself. Then I did spiritual healing in the Spiritualist Church, NFSH, those things, Reiki, crystal healing, so a lot of energy stuff. Then I went into some of the talking therapies, studied counselling, and then hypnotherapy, and they did lead logically. I was doing crystal healing, and I'd find that people would be in tears and they'd be telling me things, and I thought, I don't know how to handle this. So I learnt counselling to know how to talk with people and, you know, be supportive that way. And then maybe I was counselling people and thinking, well, there's hidden stuff, there's stuff in their unconscious, you know, I should learn hypnosis to get to what those unconscious things are. And then I came across NLP, and I studied NLP, and I thought, wow, that's great, that's really good for change work. That's got some of the hypnosis and trance stuff and the communication things and all of that. What else? I mean, I went on and studied all kinds of things, and then I sort of thought, I feel a bit embarrassed. I'm a bit, you know, just dipping in this and that. I'm going to be a jack of all trades. But then I discovered in the end that those various bits do come together into one thing, which is the thing that I do, which is the theme that I do, which is something that's become, over all those different bits, very strong and powerful. And that's the theme, and that's the area where I work. And other people might do it in other ways. All the people I teach that come for Reiki, some work with animals, some work with children, some work in wherever they work, doing their jobs, some work as practitioners, some use it for themselves, some use it together with a physical therapy, some use it with counselling or with some sort of mental or talking therapy. But you find your thing. And you may not find your thing straight away, but you do eventually find your thing. And in the meantime, just enjoy it. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride with it.